Hello and welcome to Zasaa Zooms in. I had a conversation today with a friend of mine, Lola, and I revisited the conversation that I had with Sandra about can a woman have it all, because I think it's important to get different perspectives. So Lola and I spoke about can a woman have it all. But obviously, you know how it goes. As usual, we went all over the place. We started off with can a woman have it all, and then we went to all manner of places. But this is what we had to say. Hello and welcome to Zasaa Zooms In. I've got Lola with me again. You know her now.
Hello.
Today we are going to talk about a topic that I've covered before, but I'm going to speak to different ladies about it because I think it's important because everybody has a different perspective. So, Lola, can a woman have it all?
I think I heard somebody maybe a bit more articulate than myself say it better. And she said, a woman can have it all, but not at the same time.
Yes, which is what I kind of agree with. But do you think that's fair?
Absolutely. Why not? Why wouldn't it be fair?
Can a man have it all and all at once? Okay, I don't want this to be...
Guess what? The men don't have it all either.
I was going to say, I don't want this to be man bashing because I've been accused of that. So let's not even go there.
The men, if you think about it and you really kind of, break it down, the men don't have it all because, for example, well, I'll use myself as an example. So I decided that I was the best person to take care of my children. So I stepped off the work ladder and stayed at home for quite a few years through their really young years. But in those years, I was the one bonding with them. I was the one, kind of. So the men
didn't have that.
They didn't have as close as they are to their children as much. They actually don't have that, so they miss out on that. You've got
okay, so I think maybe what we have to start off with is that what is having it all?
Exactly.
Maybe that's what we need to start, because I think when I came up with this question, I spoke to a friend of mine about it, and I was like, okay, she's a successful businesswoman, she's got her children, she has a successful marriage. That's a funny statement, but she has a good marriage, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like she looks from the outside like she has it all, and that was what made me, I was like, okay, can a woman have it all?
Yeah.
But I guess having it all has different meanings to different people, and yes, exactly. So whilst one might think that, okay, yes, one wants to be successful in their career and stuff, I agree with you, it's seasons, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you can't, I mean, like now I'm getting to the season where after 17 years I'm no longer in primary school.
Oh gosh, yes.
So I can see that, something else can happen. Things can start to happen for me now. Because like you, I gave up.
Yeah.
Life. For my children, gave up life.
Everything, yeah.
But I think, so what is having it all to you?
I think that's a good question. Personally, having it all to me is, first of all, having a successful family. For me, that's more important than anything. Once I decided that I was going to get married, because that wasn't
always the plan.
That was always a given, and I suspect that if I hadn't married at the age I got married,
you wouldn't have married.
I would probably have decided that no. So I think God kind of did a fast one on me, because I got married with what I think is quite young.
How old are you?
25.
Okay, same age as me.
So for me, once that decision was made to get married and start a family, that became the priority. And I say that because I see a lot of dysfunctional families. I might even come from one myself.
No, but to be fair, I think every family is dysfunctional, but I understand what you're saying, to try and make it as functional as can.
Yeah, and then and godly, because I'm a Christian. Yeah. So for me, it was just important to make that. I don't want to use the word success, but to be able, because you in life you just see how families disintegrate. People grow up and they're not talking to their siblings, or and it's just so important to me that my children are raised in raised in a home that is secure, it's loving, and it's godly, and that's what they so that is a priority for me. And so it wasn't hard for me to say, I'm gonna shelve. Once I, if maybe I hadn't started a family, I would have, the priorities might have been different. So
Yeah.
to me, that above everything else is success. If I succeed at everything else in life and I fail as a mother or even as a wife, yeah. So I'm going to be honest. To me, that has to work. But then God puts us here for much more.
Yeah, absolutely.
So He didn't just put me here to be a wife and a mother. So for me, it was understanding the seasons of my life and what I had to put the most effort into. Of course, when I was, when the kids were really little, I was still doing stuff that I was passionate about, but maybe at a lower level and lower scale. As they've begun to, do their own thing now, there's more time to develop myself more, put myself more into to that. And like I said, relatively young when I got married. I was probably one of the first of my friends to get married. So even now, there's still time to do stuff. So for me, it has worked in that order and in that way. I'm with the children and raising children, it's always been about yielding it to however way God wanted me to raise them. So for me, the confidence is in God that these kids are going to be fine.
Yeah.
We've done whatever it is that we feel we should have done. And I don't really worry about my children too much. And I think it's because I done the that time nothing else mattered. My hair wasn't always great. My nails were never done. But I just wanted, doing the taxi thing and doing all, just do it for them. And then now I can kind of focus on what I want to achieve. But my husband and I want to achieve together as well.
But let me ask you a question, because this is I completely agree with you, and I did pretty much the same thing. But I knew when I did that my career was going to be motherhood. Do you understand what I mean?
Okay.
Because I knew that for the sort of career that I would have gone into, I couldn't step out like that. You know what I mean? There's something doing my nose.
Let's get you some tissue.
No, it's not even. It's like a piece of hair or something.
Oh, right.
I can't see No, but so you know what I mean. So to a certain extent, when you, I guess, depending on what career line you're in. So, for example, I have a cousin that did medicine. So she didn't start having kids till later because she felt she needed to be at a certain point in her career before she could step out.
Yeah.
I stepped out at the beginning, knowing that I may never come back, or I'll come back to something different. Do you know what I mean? So that in itself is already a sacrifice. Maybe?
I think the key is knowing what you want to do. Like your friend who obviously is a medical doctor, that and knowing early on, because the frustration would be if you kind of mix it up, and then you're forced to step out or you're struggling with it. I think knowing early on, what I do, if you like come back at 60, you will find your way around it. I think it's knowing what you want to do, which a lot of.
I was just going to put that at 25.
To be fair, a lot of us, but then, and apologies to the non-Christians listening, for me as a Christian, that's where God kind of brings that guidance, because I didn't know. Yeah. Even as I stayed at home with the kids, it wasn't all, nice, and I was a bit, because I wasn't, I don't want to say stimulated. I was, you'd go to like dinner parties or events, and they'd be like, so what do you do?
Well, you see, well, you see,
that really bugged me a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
Is that a cultural thing? Because I always said, I'd always known that from when I became a mother, I was going to give up whatever I was doing to mother my children. I knew that, so I always knew that my career was kind of going to be motherhood and wifehood, as I used to call it. That was what I was going to do, and I didn't have a problem with that. I was okay with that. I felt like that was a good enough career to have, and I would say it with pride. When people say, "What do you want to do? What do you do?" I'll say, "I'm mother." I loved it. For me,
I didn't have that clarity.
But I'm wondering whether that's a cultural thing as well. Because for me, I know that a lot of my friends, because of the Christianity, in my Christianity, a lot of my friends, because again, I was one of the first to get married and start having children. Actually, some had got married after me and had children first. But I was one of the first, and when I was like, I'm going to stay at home, a lot of the girls in the Christian circle thought, okay, this might be what one is supposed to do as a Christian, because so I know that a few of my friends tried it, but they couldn't.
Oh yeah.
They could because they were obviously not supposed to, but
Yeah.
they kind of felt a pressure to do that.
Yeah.
And so they did, and then they went back to work, which is fine. But I stayed at home. I mean, I literally stayed at home till now, almost. I mean, I did some part-time things later on, but effectively I gave up.
Yeah, I think we've got to just free ourselves to do what works for us. There's no point in, I mean, I know people who went back to work 2 weeks after giving birth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that works for them.
But you see,
and that makes them happier.
But you see,
which is the key.
Does this not come back down to this thing of societal expectations? And because I know a particular friend of mine, she was, I mean, especially within the Christian community, when I was there, she was like, oh, she saw me and she saw I was enjoying it. She didn't have kids till much later, when my kids were older. And so she was like, okay, she's going to stay home too. This looks like something that can work. Look, after like a month, she was like, I can't do this. I just can't. And then she felt really guilty that she couldn't be mother to her kids, that she wasn't happy staying at home. And I think that was also like, this was now the Christian pressure, not the society. You know what I mean? So we were like, oh my gosh, am I a good mother? I can't, And I was like, you can pay to, I didn't want to pay to have people look after, but you can pay, you can get the best people to look after your kids. It's not really about that. But I think there's also that
it's just
pressure
of when I had my first time mom, when I had my daughter, oh my god, the advice, even before,
oh my gosh,
I was just like, come on, let's start with the pregnancy bit. And sorry, some people are going to be offended, but there was this book that was going around then, Supernatural Childbirth or something. Sorry if you used it or if you even wrote it, but I was like, no, thank you. And I said to them, you have to have everything ready for me there. Every pain, I will do because, I understood. And some people had successes with it. They read it, it worked for them. But that's where that, understanding who you are, your individualism must come into play. And you have to make that decision. So and then obviously when you have the child, everyone's like, you must use this. Okay, because of they have this on their skin. Use this. Okay, don't use this. So I don't know where the confidence came from, but as a young mom, I always did.
You see, I feel like this thing comes to something else that is going on, because you see, I mean, I remember a friend of mine, exactly that. And again, it's in this Christian circle, supernatural childbirth, and African, it's all going on. And she had to have a cesarean. She was almost stopping them from having a cesarean because she was like, no, she's believing God. And I was like, do you know that a cesarean is going to save your life? It's not a big deal. Yes, you tried to do it supernaturally, it didn't work. Move on to the next thing. Follow the doctor's advice. But she was so hung up in the fact that she was really quite upset that she had a cesarean for a long time. I mean, she got over it eventually. But I feel like that pressure, that thing of everybody, you having that, there's obviously something you had before that allowed you to have that confidence to do what you wanted to do. Because I think the pressure of, and especially as a new mom, especially with your mother-in-law, your own mother, and sometimes all of the aunties within this,
all the remedies coming from all over the world, you must do this. But what I say, and what I said then to myself, and what I now say to people,
it's stubborn so I can understand it.
What I said is, look, this child was born to me, into this family. It means that everything we need to raise this child is here, right here.
Yeah.
And I tell her, look, that child wasn't born to me, so I can't tell you what to do. So you've got to. I mean, I'm not saying don't talk to people, don't get advice. Of course, you will do all that within reason. But you have to trust yourself. That you know what's right for your child, and you know what works. And it comes back to that working thing. If a mother is staying at home and she's miserable, if she needs an work outlet, and she's staying out because the world thinks that you should be at home, that's not going to be good for the child.
No, it isn't. Absolutely.
And the children are even different. Some children thrive better in nurseries or with nanny or whatever, than just kind of being cooped at home with mom and you're watching daytime TV or So I think you have to. The key is to just do it for yourself and make it work for yourself. With the cesarean thing and sometimes with breastfeeding and all of that. I always tell people, look, I can tell you one thing. When I went to register my child for school at age 5 or 4, They didn't ask
me if I breastfeed.
They didn't ask. So
Yeah.
you'll be okay.
No, it's true.
You
It's
know?
true. I mean, and it's funny because I think that whole thing of I love what you said, because I always remind myself of that when I'm having any challenge with any of my children. I remind myself that God made me their mother. Could have made anybody else their mother, but He made me their mother. So obviously, I'm good enough to be their mother, and I have what it takes, what I need to sort this situation.
Absolutely.
Because I think sometimes you can, because as they get older, if you have young children, sometimes you can just be like, who is this?
Who is this? What have I done? Or what haven't I done?
I failed as a mother. But I never, I know that I have everything that I need to be the mother of this particular child and that particular child, because I have plenty of them. But you know what I mean. But okay, so the because we're talking about kind of women have it all, which I kind of like the fact that we've gone into this, because I think this motherhood thing is, for a lot of, some women don't have children, but for a lot of us, motherhood is a big part of having it all, because especially if we're married and we want to have children. I mean, there's a topic I want to do, and I don't know, I'll touch on it here. One of my friends said to me, she said, well, what if we don't want children? And it's a very valid thing, but nobody assumes that you marry and you don't want children.
Just decide
so if you decide you're not having children, people always assume that it's because you can't have children, rather than you have decided not to have children. And I think it's a very valid
I think they're actually very, when I meet people, and okay, maybe no, but when I meet people who are clear that they don't want children, I have a deep respect for them, because that shows some serious self-awareness. And an understanding, because I'm not going to lie to you, I just kind of, I'm like, you get married, you have children. There was, which so the first couple of years kind of hit me like, wow, my mom made this look easy, But then again, she was in Nigeria with all the help that she could have. I mean, look, when I was about 16, I wanted 8 children. Then
I had one.
Then I had one, and I'm like, no. It was a good 5-year gap between, because I was so traumatized by the fact that you're entirely responsible for this. So when I meet people who say, I know what it entails, and it's not for me, I have such a I'm interested in that, because to me you have self-awareness, but you've also thought about which I
actually think that is a kinder thing than people that just go ahead and have children and can't, so as weird as it probably sounds to us in our community, or as odd as it seems, I think that, like you said, these people are onto something. You don't want the child, then as you don't, not that you don't want the child, you don't want to have children, and you don't want to have children, that's fine. There's no,
or you even know your own, your own capacity, because as a parent, like I always say, some of the things that I definitely won't take from
anybody.
Like my threshold for silliness is very, very low. But my children do stuff, but because I don't want, I'm so aware of their emotional growth and their, so whereas somebody else, I'll just snap at you and be like, I don't think with them you have to, and that takes. I mean, for some people it comes naturally. To me,
but I think the parenthood does teach. I mean, it changes you. And I had a conversation with one of my friends. Actually, I don't think I put it out about motherhood, and did motherhood change you? And I think sometimes, even because one of my friends, I remember she completely changed.
Wow.
Because she was not a very nice person. She was quite, not that she wasn't nice, but she was quite selfish. She was all about herself. But the moment she became a mother, she just flipped. And it started with her child, and obviously then flowed to the rest of us. You know what I mean? Where she was just much more aware of, you know what I mean? So I do think that sometimes it can. So I know parenthood teaches you patience
and humility.
So if you want to learn any skills, go and be a parent. Because I think it does teach you a lot of stuff.
Because you have to be aware of the other person's. I think what I'm always mindful of is at least until they become adults, you're responsible for that person's, how they turn out, their mental and emotional well-being.
And physical.
And physical, which is probably the easiest, because you just make sure they eat well and all that. But for me, that emotion, because growing up in Nigeria, literally children were seen and not heard. I mean, sometimes my
We
kids
care
talk to
about
me,
your mental or emotional health. What do
and
you
I'm
mean?
like, I can't even say that to my mom now. And I'm this big, but then they go out into the world, and they're probably going to be a lot more productive than we, or get to a place quicker than we
Yeah.
did. So yeah, it's there's that challenge. So yeah, back to what you're saying about people who know. Totally respect that. And appreciate it in people when they say, and as a parent, you know that this person knows what they're talking about by not just jumping into it. Of
Yeah.
course, the flip side of that, like you said, is people kind of just go ahead and have children all
Yeah.
over the place. And we
But you
have
see,
all
I
these issues.
firmly believe, because I'm a Christian, that wherever the child come from, however they came, they are meant to be. Do you
Absolutely.
know what I mean? So it's like, I don't care. Some people will say things like, oh, why should drug dealers or drug addicts be allowed to? As far as I'm concerned,
No. That
any
that
child
kind of
that
thinking
comes,
is.
any child that comes is meant to come, and that's.
And as we've seen with so many life stories, some of the greatest people on earth have come from what society deems to be not the best of circumstances. So that should be a lesson for us.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so motherhood. So career-wise, because I think for me, having it all, I had to think about this. Can a woman have it all? I feel like having it all for me is actually just having peace.
That's a good.
If that makes any sense. So peace in my marriage, peace in my parenting, peace in my career if I have one, peace in my friendships, peace in my. That's having it all. It's like there's just a peace and ease around. So sometimes it's not even about what I'm necessarily involved in. It's just that whatever I'm involved in there's an ease to it. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I don't. So I feel like I haven't always had it all, because sometimes it hasn't been as easy, but it's gotten easier. So maybe because I've changed a bit, maybe because situations have changed, maybe because I've settled into stuff. You know how things get comfortable in. So maybe, but I feel like I have it all. Do I have a lot of money? No. Do I have a thriving career? No. Do I have children that are like you're perfect? No. But I feel like I'm doing okay. I've got enough of it, but it's because my definition of all is very different from what a lot of people will think. Because I think a lot of people will look. Well, I mean, people look and think, "Oh, you have it all. You've got lovely children." It's so funny because I had coffee with a friend of mine who doesn't have children yet, and that's like one of her desires. And she was saying to me, so by the time we were just talking, and by the time I had said some of the things going on with my kids, she was like, "Oh, thank you so much, because all I want is children, and I still want them, but you're giving me a perspective on it, that because I look at you and it looks like, oh, she has 4 great kids, and they are great kids, but you don't see the behind the scenes stuff, So when I wasn't even deliberately trying to, she just asked the question, I answered it, and in that she saw that actually what you see as having it all is not necessarily what is going on as having it all. But for me, it's about where I am, as in. So I'm okay. I'm good.
I agree. Peace. I think you've got to define what having it all. You always have to. And it could be as different for each lady that walks this planet. I also believe in just understanding the seasons of your life.
Yeah, and because I was going to say that, and it can change. What having all means to me today could be different tomorrow. Tomorrow I could want 5 cars
and a private jet.
3 mansions. I hope my husband is listening to this.
Take notes.
But you know what I mean? So it does change, but I think for me the way I know, like it's like a peace, the ease. And I remember a friend of mine saying to me, we were talking about our friendship, and she was saying it's just easy. She doesn't have to stress, it's just easy. Or worry. And I understood what she meant, because it's just like, I don't know if it's our age or it's just like I just need it to be. I don't need anything that's going to be causing me drama.
I think a factor that maybe troubles people in all this, do I have it all, is sometimes people also compare themselves to other people. So you're thinking, my friend is 50, she's had all her kids, she's a manager in this, everyone is calling her to do X, Y, and Z, she has a great marriage. But we've just got to realize we have different paths to trot.
You see, it's so funny you say that because you're absolutely right. There's that, and it might not even be you.
Yeah.
It can be other people
Usually
saying, you know what I mean? Like, but she has that she, you know, and I think sometimes it can be quite hard. I mean, so I know, funny enough, I was so sure. I mean, they always joke about the fact that I came out of the womb a wife and a mother. My friend, you know, that's what people say because I guess from very young I was not trained. I was, you know, like I don't know, but I've always known that that's what I wanted to do. That when I started having children, if we didn't have to start having children immediately for that reason, because I was like, when I start, I'm stopping everything else. So you know, it was like I knew that. So I was very confident in being a mother. But I know that, you know, there were people would be like, but so are you not going to work? So how are you surviving? Okay, so I'm like, look, if I was working, we would have done so much better than now. But we made the choice for me not to work so that we could so I could raise the kids. But there was a lot of like, you know, but so she only took 2 years off. You know, you're on year 5. Or you know, that sort of thing. So I guess there is, but I didn't have any issues with that because I knew
that's what you know what I mean? But a lot of people feel the pressure.
Yeah, and the thing is that's what I'm saying. So I don't know if, even though I was quite young, actually maybe I wasn't young by the time I became a mother. I was 29, so I probably wasn't young actually. But I knew long before that was the plan. But I sometimes think, I wonder if because I knew from so long, I wonder if I then didn't allow myself to be anything else. Did you understand what I mean?
So because
so because for so long that's what I wanted. If I had decided at 32 I wanted a career, did I even have it in me to say, actually, you know what? I don't want to be a mom anymore. I want to go back to work and have a career. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, you would have found a way if that.
I guess so. I mean,
or if something came up, you know, because sometimes a once in a lifetime opportunity can come up and you feel like, okay, let's do this for this season.
Because I think sometimes expectations can limit you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because I have said all my life, this is what I want to be. I want to be a wife and a mother. I want to be a wife and a mother. Then I become a wife and a mother, and I suddenly want to be a career woman. And I'm thinking, what I've been saying is, how is it going to look if I change my mind? You know, that sort of thing. So sometimes it can. I mean, it didn't in my case, but I did wonder. I don't know when it was. It was when I was. Yeah, it was when I was. Now that I'm thinking, I need to get a proper job.
Yeah.
I'm thinking. Is it at this age I'm going to be looking for a proper job? You know, I mean, I should have done this like 20 years ago, but I was like 20, you know what I mean? So it's interesting. I mean, I don't regret anything, but it did cross my mind that I wonder if I had that thought at maybe 35, whether I had the strength then to change it. To change it.
But that's the thing, though, and I hope maybe, you know, younger women hearing this know that you can do anything you want. That it's actually your life. Do you understand? You know, and you can make that U-turn at any point you want, and the world is so much more forgiving of those changes, and you know now. So
it even encourages them.
It encourages you. You know, loads of people are doing. You know, there's a lot of focus on individuality now, rather than just, you know, your group think that we've always done. Or this is how your life must pan out. So I think. Yeah, if today you change your mind, I don't want to do this again, you pivot to whatever else works for you. I think that's the strength in having it all, being able to go for what works for you. At any point in your life, obviously within reason. You know, to kind of take into consideration everything else going on. Not like it's okay. I'm going to Brazil for 2 years, and your husband is like, what?
But you see, that's because you have a husband. If you don't have a husband, that gives you, and it's funny because in the I don't know if you saw the conversation we did about giving up your dreams. That's what one of the girls was saying, that she would, you know, she would have liked to live in Paris in a flat by herself, but she can't really up and do that now. You know, so there's some things that you. So
that really resonated with me because I always wanted to go and work at the UN in New York as a young person. Now I can't, but that's something that I've loved to have done as a younger person.
It's interesting because when I posted that video, another friend of mine put a comment underneath and said, yes, just dream your dreams. And I was like, okay, it wasn't, not that, I mean, I never really thought about it because that we were just having the conversation about it. I thought, okay, so you need to start what are your new dreams?
Yeah.
Also, there's some dreams that you can re-pick up.
That's true.
You know what I mean? That are still viable.
That's true.
So pick those ones up if they're still relevant.
Yeah.
And then, dream new dreams.
Yeah. Just live. I think that's my. I know, it's almost a cliche we always say, but this year, I think my takeaway from this year is just live your life.
This year, what has it been COVID year? Or just this year?
Just this year, too much has happened, and I just feel like, this is your life, and you've got to just,
But you see,
and look, I know in that conversation you had, you said the men they don't ask permission from anyone. Just tell you, okay, I'm doing this now, and you're like, okay, and then because we're almost instinctively supportive, you kind of just flow with. Meanwhile, if I have a plan, I have to figure out how it's going to affect everyone, and what is it going to do to you, and then try and talk you through it and all that. And that's the difference between the way I kind of approach things, and maybe my husband, if he sees something, he will just do it.
Yeah. You said, and I don't even know if that's a good or a bad thing. Sometimes I feel like we should be able to do that too.
Yeah.
But I understand that, because this was the thing that I had a conversation with my husband once on tete-a-tete, that even when the husband is willing to help with the parenting, a lot of the time the children want the mother.
The mom.
So there's a certain natural thing that causes us to not be able to do certain things, I think.
Yeah.
So we just have to accept that. I mean, what are you going to do? You can't. I mean, yes, you could abandon the kid and leave them with the father, knowing that they're safe with the father, but you probably wouldn't.
You will enjoy what you're doing.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So it's like, so I think that there are certain restrictions that do come to us as mothers, just because of the fact that's just how God made it, and there's nothing we can do.
Same when you have the child,
exactly.
There's no point in telling the husband to take 3 months paternity leave. It's not going to be of any use.
He can rub your back. What do you mean? He can give you foot massages. His paternity leave is for you, not for the child. That's what it is. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think it's so yes. So can a woman have it all? In this conversation, we're saying yes, they can.
Yeah.
Which is actually what we said in the last conversation, but it's at different times. You have to understand seasons. You have to know yourself. I think it's.
I think you can have it all, but with sacrifices and also knowing what your end goal is. And I just want to use an example to buttress that, of somebody that I kind of, when I started coming of age, would look at to see what kind of life she had, and that's Margaret Thatcher, the former British Prime Minister. And of course, she was the first female Prime Minister. This, grammar school lady coming into the middle of all these posh lords and sons of lords, and ordering them about, kind of thing. But I went back to look at her life and her journey, and to her, she may have had it all, but I looked at her children, and she didn't have any time for them like that.
Yeah.
They were not, mummied by her.
Yeah.
And you saw that in their lives. I mean, could you name her 2 kids now? You probably can't.
I remember the girl was quite notorious, wasn't she?
And then the son got arrested for attempted coup in Africa and a whole lot. For me, I looked at that and I thought, well, you did well. But your name is written in the etches of history or whatever, sands of history, or what they have, this and that thing. But I don't want your family.
Yeah.
So she had to sacrifice something to get to that.
It's funny because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about the Queen. So when the Queen died, she sent me something, and basically, I think she forwarded it, but anyway, she got the brunt of my my response because she basically put well done, so many years of service, no scandal, and then she said even though her children had scandals. So I was like, no, if you are praising her, praise her. Why do you have to bring even though her children had scandal? But and I was explaining to her that, think about it, she didn't really mother those children.
No.
Because yes, she was the mother and she had times with them, but she's not the one that brought up those children. So it's another thing, like what we are saying. I mean, that doesn't mean those of us that even bring up our children might have scandals. So we're not saying that because we mother our children, they won't have scandal. But there's there's
Yeah.
that thing of like so did she have it all? I mean, we obviously the queen's on a completely different
Because
story
she didn't even have
she
the
didn't
choice.
have the choice.
So
Yeah.
fair enough.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's very interesting to see
Yeah.
what so I don't know.
You've that for me anyway. You've got to sacrifice. If you're going back to work, you're sacrificing something because somebody else is spending that time. They might be the ones to see the first steps, the first whatever, and everything. So somebody is sacrificing. If we stay at home, we're going back to work. I mean, I said to you, my boss was my age. Obviously, he's been in the pipeline for longer than I have, so that's why we finished university the same year. We got into the work space kind of, and then I didn't know him then. I'm just saying, you're the same age with somebody, but there's so much ahead of you. Yeah. So that's a sacrifice that you've made, but you've got to be clear that your sacrifice is worth.
It's so interesting you say that because I had a conversation with Wale on tete-a-tete with Tiwa, and someone had asked a question that do you feel like you sacrifice, I don't know, something to do with sacrifice? And I remember in my response I was like, I don't actually see it as a sacrifice because I chose to do it. So it's interesting that it's still a sacrifice, yes, but I don't, when you say, oh, I gave up, I don't look at it.
It's
like
only
that.
if you look at the sacrifice as a
negative,
negative, or as I'm sacrificing so I must get this back. That's when that ball. It's an exchange of something. So
it's true.
Okay,
so we can have it all, but we have to know what it all means to us individually, and we have to do what works for us.
Do what works for you. I think that is so. I think that's so important because the consequences, you're the one that will bear it. So you've got to be sure that it's your decision and not societies or your friends or your churches or
But you see, I know we really need to end, but the problem with that is that I feel like so many of us don't know that, and it's later. Like I said to you that you obviously early on in your stubbornness.
So that stubbornness worked too.
But you know what I mean? Like you knew who you were or you knew what you wanted.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of, actually no, but maybe this generation, but a lot of us at that age were not that sure about what we wanted. So yes, what you're saying is correct, but that's kind of based on knowing what you want, where you want to go. And sometimes we just go with the flow.
But also then the voices of women all over, like conversations like this, if they're out there, then it becomes more of and less acceptable for people to try to police your behavior or put you in some sort of box. I mean, 25 years ago, you didn't have exposure to all these chats and things like this, and you did what you were told,
or what your mother did,
or your auntie said this is how we do it. Do it. I remember when I had my daughter, and one time I went to Nigeria and I went to see my auntie, and I don't know what we're talking about, maybe something to do with. I said, that when we were younger, we didn't have the guts to question those old women. I said, that's you, auntie, because I know what I want, and I'm not afraid to tell you that what you're saying I should do is wrong. But so you can see from generation to generation how that. But now I think the changes are already here, like you said. This generation of women young women, 20s, 30s, they're bold, they're confident, and they're doing what they want to do. And I'm always for encouraging them, because I feel. I'm sorry to the women that are older than me. I feel in my 20s and 30s, the women that were older were not supportive.
I think I agree with you, but I think it was also because they didn't know where they were.
But we didn't know, and here we are talking about how can women... Because that's a big bugbear for me. I don't like people looking down on younger women or talking to them. And if I'm in a group and, I will go for the young, I will be on the young. I think maybe...
how much of that is culture, do you think? Or do you think
a lot of it is culture. A lot of it is culture.
Because it's so funny because I went to a wedding recently of a girl who, I don't even know how old she is, but she's significantly younger than me, but she's my friend.
Yeah.
And when I got there, I bumped into a friend of mine who is her uncle. And I didn't know because he's married to her, I don't know, he's married to her. So her mother's sister or something like that. I had no clue that there was any relation. So when he was like, oh, so I asked him, oh, how do you know her? And he said,
That's my niece.
yeah, that's my niece. And I'm like, oh, she's my friend. So, it was
he wasn't computing. Like,
but it's that sort of thing
Yeah.
where I actually don't care how old you are.
Yeah.
For me, age is not an issue. But I remember, it's like that sort of, that really brought it home to me, that situation. Because at no point have I thought to myself, oh, she's
young,
old
so
enough to be her mother. Or I've never even ever thought, I know she's younger than me, but I don't care.
Yeah.
She's my friend. Yeah. It was just so funny the way that happened. I just like, okay, this is,
But you only kind of see that, well, I don't know if it's only, but for me, in like African settings.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a cultural thing because funny enough, we even had the challenge of her calling me my first name because she calls me my first name and her older sister, who knows me through a different route, calls me sister. So her older sister is like, you can't call her first name. You know what I'm saying? And in fact, her older sister approached me and said, are you okay with her calling me your first name? Because it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
It's so, and I find that the ones that call me sister are usually ruder to me than
this
the
is
ones
the thing.
This is the thing. If you're calling me sister or auntie, it doesn't necessarily
mean
that
anything.
You respect me. So
it
I'm
doesn't
not,
mean anything. I mean, I do tell my children that, please, when you're with Africans, behave African because you don't want any problems.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. But that's more because the other thing about Nigerians, I noticed, they won't tell you that you've offended them. It will just come out another way. So I do that. Everybody, I don't mind. It doesn't cost me anything to call you sister or auntie if that's what you like.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily care for it.
Well, you see, I really struggled with that because, as you know, I wasn't brought up like that. I don't really understand that.
Yeah.
I've always called everybody by their name. I mean, I'll call auntie and uncle if they're, older, but in terms of in my generation, even if they're like 5-6 years older, 10 years older, I'll call them by their first name. And I think obviously it's a cultural thing. But I felt like, but by the time you put sister, it puts a distance.
Of course.
And then so if I met you as sister, maybe, I don't know, but once you put sister, so I'm like, I don't feel like I can, so for me, it's like, what sort of relationship do we really want?
Yeah.
Because I'm quite happy to call you sister, but then I have this thing where they will send me a letter, let's say an email, and they will sign it Lola. And then when I phone and say, hello Lola, then they're upset I didn't call them Deaconess Lola or Pastor Lola. I'm like, if you want me to call, then sign it Pastor. Because I don't know.
I tell you what I do now. I ask people, how do you want me to? I mean, apart from the obvious, but I'll ask you, especially if it's if we meet, how do you want me to address you? It's Nigerians, obviously. I mean, if, I kind of know the norms outside of that circle, but how do you want me to address you? You to say, especially with maybe professional things where you're meeting a Nigerian. I can't be calling you Sister Kweju when we are doing a Zoom call on financial literacy or whatever it is, So I will ask you, what do you, or it may just be you want me to call you Mrs. whatever. That's fine.
Yeah,
but that thing is it's definitely a culture because we in my family as well I have cousins that are old. But we didn't grow up saying sister. But now I say sister because having been exposed to
I've been
like, there are people that are 10 years younger than you, I'm calling sister. So I can't call you by name. So I will call you sister. But all of that doesn't really matter to me. I just if it makes you happy, I'll do it. If it makes you feel respected, I'll do it. But for me, like you said, it creates a barrier. And
it does. But interesting.
Anyway, that was a bit of a segue.
Okay, we're going now because this one just takes me off. And everybody takes me off first.
Sorry. Is that stubbornness coming out? We must.
But it's okay because I think it's interesting. Anyway, we've covered different things on and it's very interesting.
Yeah.
So we're stopping here. She will be back. For the last time. I don't know if I have her on here very often.
I talk too much.
Too much trouble. Okay, so again, we've come to the conclusion that a woman can have it all, but at different times, not all at the same time. Lola brought up an interesting point that a man can't have it all either because he's missing out on something. The whole thing about sacrifice is that we're always sacrificing something, and so depending on how you look at it, you can't have it all. And obviously what it all means to one person is different from what it means to another person, and it all today may be very different from it all tomorrow or in 10 years time. So yeah, let us know what you think. God bless you.